All right. Welcome back to episode 2 of our podcast. We still don't know what it's called. We didn't even know if we were going to do another episode of this, but we had such a raving fan reception to episode 1 that we had to come back and do more. So I think this is becoming a thing. Brittany Fox, how are you doing?
Doing
Great
good.
to see you again.
Yeah, I'm excited because we're going to be talking about one of our favorite topics today, which is about mindset and the importance of it, especially in long-term success and the importance of all the areas of your life, right? It has a lot to do with your mindset. So to kick us off, I thought I'd ask you, Dave, what do you think the importance is of mindset, especially when it comes to long-term success?
So I think when you start off on this entrepreneurial journey, that can be a hard word to say. When you start off on this entrepreneurial journey, we can oftentimes be thinking about how do we do it? What's the strategy? What's the tactics? But the longer that you do this and the more that you start to learn about personal development and the importance that plays in this, the more that you understand that really mindset is everything. Mm-hmm. If you look at the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle of success, at least 80% of that's mindset.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when it comes to building a business, a company, it's often said that the success is capped at the mindset of the leader.
Yes.
So when it comes to expanding and growing and getting to new levels, it's going to only top at what your level of mindset is. So what would you say are some things that someone could start doing to work on their mindset? If they're maybe just starting this journey of entrepreneur, or maybe they're starting a career in tech, what are some important factors when it comes to mindset?
I think what you need to start doing first, before you can make any changes, is you have to become aware of what's going on under the hood in your mind. There is so many patterns and ways of thinking and just belief systems that you're not even completely aware of that really are controlling everything you're doing on a daily basis. And when you embrace this journey of personal development, it really is the journey of unearthing those and then beginning to change them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what about how do you maintain a positive mindset when things aren't maybe going as you expected?
So there's a tool that I really like. It actually comes from David Goggins. And he talks about this concept of the cookie jar. And this idea of the cookie jar was when he was a kid, he would have a cookie jar on the counter where he could always go in and get a cookie if he was hungry between meals, right? And we as people, he talks about us having this cookie jar in our mind of past achievements so that when you are having one of those moments when you're like, oh crap, it seems like all hell is breaking loose, things aren't working for me right now, I don't see a way out of this, you're able to go in that mental cookie jar and be like, but I remember when this happened in the past and everything was okay. Or I remember when this wasn't looking good and then it turned out completely fine. Or I remember when this huge challenge was in my life and I overcame it. And you have this mental place where you can go. I personally call it the trophy room. Goggins calls it the cookie jar. But you have this place where you can go and remind yourself of your past victories. And the more you can do that, the more these challenges that you face on a daily basis become not as big of a deal as they were in the past. What about you, Brittany? Tell me about some of the ways that you've dealt with challenges in your past.
Challenges? I mean, yeah, it's all about the mindset, as you mentioned. And I think looking back on past successes and even failures and seeing how we've made it through, how I've made it through specific ones. I remember I had this goal in New York of, I really wanted to work at this company that was one of the top brokerage firms in New York City. And I had set my mind out about working there. And I just didn't see how it could happen. But I remember it had a lot to do with my mindset and just thinking about it. And then the opportunity did come and I ended up working at that company. And that's just one of so many factors that I think started my belief system of mindset. Is once you see it and you see it happen for you, then you start seeing it again and you can recall those events. And even with our company being able to set goals and then achieve them, and then even when things get hard, you remember and you come back to knowing that, I mean, I think I truly have a fundamental belief that I believe everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
Even when things are not going the way I think, or, I mean, we had one of the hardest years in our business in 2022, And I remember even during that time, like, okay, like, God forbid, worst case scenario, we end up shutting down. Like, okay, well, we'll pivot and do something else, you know? It's just my mindset of being able to always believe that there's a way and it's always going to work out for good, I think is how I maintain a positive, is just a fundamental belief that it's going to work out. And then I take past evidence to make it, to validate those ideas.
So you have your own trophy room, it sounds like.
It does. I guess that's where I'm going, is I'm giving you real examples of the trophy, the cookie jar effect.
So let me ask you, I think, and this is probably your journey too, most people start off, they're grinding away, trying to figure out some way to become successful, and then they discover, oh, mindset plays a big part. I need to work on that. I don't think it's very often the other way around, where someone's working on their mindset, and then they're like, oh, I need to do some like work hard to make this happen too. What was it for you that was the moment or event that happened that you were like, oh, mindset's actually a really important piece, and this is something that I need to be working on?
I think there was a time when we started the business and I had never managed people before we launched our company. I worked in real estate and I was independent working on a team, but I wasn't managing anyone. And I remember my mindset of thinking, I was asking for feedback because I was having a challenge with someone who reported to me and I wasn't sure how to manage them or hold them accountable. And then I remember I got some feedback of it had to do with my mindset, that I had a belief that I didn't know how to manage because I hadn't led before.
Yeah.
And that was a moment when I started thinking, well, what else is holding me back? Because I know that I had some other maybe limiting beliefs of I've never run a company, I've never worked in tech before, but it was just I slowly started thinking about all the things that could be holding me back. But I think it was that key moment of someone giving me the feedback that I thought that I didn't know how to manage people. Just because I hadn't done it before, it didn't actually mean I didn't know how to do it. Maybe I did need to get some more skills, and I did invest in that and got coaching and feedback. But I think that's where it all started for me.
And since then, what have been some of those other beliefs that you've uncovered that you've been like, wow, I can't believe I believe that?
I mean, there's countless. I could look at so many, and I think you never, I don't know that you ever get to a point where you don't have any more limiting beliefs, because a new event might happen, or maybe something goes not the way you expected, or maybe something tragic, or you have a new trauma in your life, and then it creates a new limiting belief over time, maybe not right away. So I think we're constantly overcoming our own beliefs because we're only able to achieve what we believe. So that is just the start, and it's been an entire journey for us, and I think it's ongoing, right? Like what's holding me back now of getting our company to the next level, of getting our life to the next level of what we see it. So constantly challenging that. What about for you? What are some beliefs you've had to overcome?
Whoa, there's been so many. I think there's been like times where realizing that I don't know as much as I think I do about so many different things. Like, I think one of the pinnacles of my personal growth has been realizing how little I know. And you were even talking about this the other day. It's like the wiser you get, the more you realize that I know hardly anything about anything, because we live in such a big universe and there's so much that's potential to know. The other thing that I think's been really good from a belief standpoint is you can get very programmed from the culture and the way of life and the place in which you're born. So traveling has also been very, very powerful, at least for me, and I think you probably agree with this, for changing beliefs and helping you see other perspectives and realizing, like, this is one of the most powerful beliefs that I had the other day. I realized that based on your circumstances, where you were born and the experiences that you had in your life, you could be anybody that you pass, you could be in that exact person's situation. It doesn't matter what it is. So I think knowing that you're growing up and the environment that you grew up in can have such a big impact on that. It's like just experiencing different cultures and stuff can break so many of those beliefs.
Yeah, and I think becoming aware of the programming that you were brought up in,
Yes.
right? I mean, I don't think we have these awarenesses, at least I didn't until later, of maybe the way that I was taught is maybe not the right way, or maybe not the way that I want to live moving forward. So experiencing new cultures, and I think with travel has been such a huge part for us to experience, like you mentioned, that I think the older we get, and this is like a famous saying, but it hits home harder now, is the older I get, the less I know.
Yeah.
But it's not in a way of ignorance, it's almost in a way of wisdom, because you realize how much knowledge there is and how much just things that we don't understand in this world and probably never will. But it comes back down to, I think, when it comes to being an entrepreneur or career in tech, whatever your pursuit is that to be open-minded and to be curious. And it's about asking questions and constantly learning and growing, which has to do with your mindset. It all comes back to the mindset.
It does. It all comes back to the mindset. And when you think about areas where people struggle with their mindset, I think one of these areas is actually around time and how much time that we have. I know you're working on something interesting around this. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the ways that your beliefs around time have evolved and how it's helped you create this exciting new thing that you're about to launch?
Yeah, I think that time, as we all know, is our most valuable asset. And this idea started for me when I began our personal development journey and my personal development journey of working on myself and thinking about what I really want out of life, and then making sure that I was spending time in those areas. So this concept came to me about how could I leverage even more to spend time on the things that matter most to me. And so what does leverage mean? It's utilizing another person or resource to hit your outcome even faster. It doesn't mean that you're not involved, but you oversee and you can guide it, but you're leveraging someone else or that resource to get to where you want even faster, so you can spend time on what truly matters most to you, and you can make an even bigger impact in the world. I think that's what leverage is truly about. So how can you leverage all of the areas of your life, not just in your business or your personal, but all of them when it comes to even your fitness, when it comes to your mindset? How can you leverage different resources? I mean, you think about online courses when it comes to leveraging and learning. We have so much access that we've never had access to.
Yeah.
And if you aren't leveraging these tools, then you're missing out on a massive opportunity to hit your goals even faster, to make a bigger impact. And what about you, Dave? What's your experience with time been and getting really leverage back in your life?
I think there's a lot of them, like really, like, what do we call them, downloads that I've gotten around time. One of them was, I went through a period of time, and I still sometimes feel this, that like I feel guilty if I'm just like not working. And it's funny because when I was just at that EO event that I was at, they actually had us all ask a question, and one of these guys asked this question. He's like, does it ever get to, and this is a guy who's like sold $100 million business or something, and he's like, does it ever get to a point where you are not like hard on yourself like that? And basically describing exactly what I was just saying that I experienced. And it made me realize that we spend our time travel isn't possible physically, right? Like we can't travel time physically, but we go all the time in our minds. We're either in the future, more than likely like worried or excited about something, or we're in the past regretting something, or more hopefully thinking about a beautiful memory, but we're never actually here. So time really only happens in the present. And it's like you only are really getting your time well spent if you're actually spending it in the present instead of traveling in the mind like that.
Yeah. I mean, being present is such a key factor, I think, in truly enjoying this life, where most people are either spending it in the past, and that causes either stress most of the time versus, I mean, hopefully you're looking at the past and thinking of things you're grateful for, experiences. But I think a lot of us spend time in the past looking at it maybe a negative way, and then or the future, and then they're planning and they're not enjoying what they've done. So being present is such key. And so we all have different challenges that we go through in life, right?
Yeah.
Like we all have, I mean, this life is like a roller coaster. You got the highs, you got the lows, and we all go through different phases in our life. But what do you think is the importance of, and even in business, of doing hard things first, and why does that matter?
So you talked earlier about patterns that we have and how the environment that we grew up in creates those patterns, and even like our way of thinking over time, right? Like the pattern of, am I thinking always in the future or am I not? That's a pattern that's been built. And we can change those, but the hard things is one of the things that change those. And basically what you want to do is you want to make it that the hard thing is not hard anymore. That is when you can have almost an automatic response to, oh, this challenge, oh, piece of cake, like I'm not worried about it because I've just done it. But that only comes by building the confidence in yourself. It's like what they say about self-esteem. You have esteem in yourself because you're proud of yourself for doing difficult things. So this is why, doing those things consistently that are hard, like going to the gym and lifting heavy weights, or challenging yourself, pushing yourself, taking that ice bath, whatever, and then trying to make that be a staple of your day and doing that first. Why? Because just doing it first is a hard thing. It's taking something that's hard and now you're doing it first, which makes it even more hard. Because I don't know about you, but I was talking to someone today. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing isn't like how amazing life is, even though life is so amazing, but my mind goes to all the things that it perceives as a problem. So if I'm fighting against that and saying, hey, I'm already in a state of mind where I wake up and I automatically am like this and I'm going to do something hard first, now you're taking two things hard, stacking them together and getting more bang for your buck.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people try to, in this life, avoid the hard things.
Yeah.
And avoid pain. We're more likely to go to something that's pleasurable versus a pain point. But at the end of the day, it's like, choose your hard. Like, life is hard and there's hard things to do. And if you aren't doing these hard things like physical working out, well, then you're choosing the hard of maybe you're not going to be the healthiest person, and then you're going to have those consequences that come along with it. Or maybe you think going to a party and not drinking is hard.
Yeah.
Well, if you're constantly going and drinking, then that's hard.
Yeah.
Because you suffer those consequences, and then you're on that cycle. So it's a matter of choosing your heart as well, and also how you look at it. And I know you mentioned like working out, it gets easier.
Yeah.
I think you said. I mean, I don't know if that's true for everyone. I still find it very hard, and I've been consistently doing this for a while, but I've come to appreciate the hard. Like, I know it actually gives me a confidence when I do the hard things. I know that once I've done the gym, I've done something that's really difficult, had a challenging conversation, I feel so much better afterwards. And you get those endorphins, especially from things like working out.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of choosing your hard, appreciating what it does for you. And that's also the only way that we truly grow, is by going through hard things in life. And whether we chose them or not, but it's the path to growth is ultimately.
You mentioned like culturally you think we seek comfort. And I think one of the reasons that is we seem to have this mindset that one day I can kick my feet up and relax. Like if you even look at the concept of retirement, which was the retirement age, like 59 and a half, 60 years old, that was come up with when the lifespan was like 63. So it was like you could spend your last 3 years like dying without having to work. But now we live in this day and age where people are just like, oh, like one day I'm going to hit this point, I'll be able to retire and do nothing. But like, if you look at the statistics, most people die very quickly after doing nothing. And when you can get that point where you just realize like the hard things don't end. I think I talked about this before with like you and I, when we first got married, we would have some sort of financial challenge, like the dog has to go to the vet, or the car breaks down and has to get fixed, or we're going to help somebody out, right? Because we want to be good people. So we're going to help somebody out. And there's always something that was taking those resources. And I had this mindset like, oh, okay, we got over that one. And then there's another one. It just doesn't end. Yeah. So we have this like false reality that we believe that one day we're going to be able to kick it up, and that doesn't happen, which is one of the reasons why I'm so happy that you and I live the philosophy of like, let's enjoy the journey. Yes, we're going to plan, we're going to save, we're going to get there one day, but like, let's enjoy the journey along the way, because we don't even know if we have tomorrow anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you said something too about the problems like never going away.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people do have that mindset of one day I'm not going to have this problem or that problem. But problems are just part of life. Like we're always and you're gonna get to new levels and you're gonna have new problems. You're going to launch a business and it's constantly new problems. You start a new career, you have those problems. And I think one thing that really helped me, which comes back to our topic today, is mindset, is shifting that belief that I have this title and I say it at our office, the chief problem solver.
Yeah.
Like, you should see yourself as that, the chief problem solver, because then it's part of the game and you're able to solve those and shift it versus, oh my God, another problem. It's, oh, I'm the chief problem solver. This is something I can handle and I was made to do.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because at one of the many events that we've been at that ties into mindset, I remember hearing the biggest problem that people have is thinking that they shouldn't have any. And that was one that I think really, really sat with me and changed my belief on that, because I've definitely fallen victim to thinking that, oh, I shouldn't have any problems. And I was just telling someone today, your level of success is directly correlated with how much pressure you can have. And the pressure that you can have is really how well you can deal with those problems. So, yeah. But speaking of events, how important do you think it is for people to invest in their mindset now that you know how important mindset is?
I think it's one of the biggest keys to success in life, business, your career, whatever your pursuit is investing in yourself. And I heard a statistic that a lot of people will start making money and they ask, well, what should I invest in? They look at the stock market, they start talking about real estate. And I heard someone say, I don't remember who it was, that if you have under 100 grand, the only thing you should be investing in, especially if you're in your 20s and 30s, is yourself.
Yeah.
That is the best ROI that you can make is in yourself.
Yeah.
Because your mindset. And to be able to invest in yourself, you can directly control the returns at the end of the day of what that looks like.
And I would tangibly explain that to someone like this. If you have $100,000 and you put into an investment, like a really, really amazing return on investment, amazing return is 100%. So you had 100 grand, you invested, you got $200,000. But if you took that 100,000 and you invested into your own mindset and developing yourself in personal development, that could make you an extra 100 grand a year for the rest of your life. That you now own that knowledge and the development and have become someone different that can do that. So that is how that could make you a way, way, way more money than taking that 100,000 and doubling it. And I know to a lot of people listening, they hear $200,000. That sounds like a ton of money. But in reality, $200,000 will be gone like that, because we live in a world where that is not what it used to be. When I was growing up, $1 million house was a mansion. Now $1 million house is like a standard any house in Miami.
Yeah. I think one thing that has helped with my fundamental belief that I know it's going to be okay is because I've invested in myself. Maybe I probably didn't always believe that, but after I started seeing the results from investing in myself, knowing that, okay, worst case scenario, when I was in real estate, if things didn't work out, I got fired from my team I was working on. If you and I during the business, I mean, we're on year 7 now. If something goes wrong and we have to shut down tomorrow, I know that we can pivot, that I can pivot and I can go do, I mean, the world is my oyster because I have these skills, but I wouldn't have these skills if I didn't invest in myself.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's so important about investing in going to personal development events and it is building your network.
Yeah.
Because I know for us, like, we didn't go to a prestigious college. We didn't do internships even because we were working to pay for our college.
Yeah.
So we didn't build our network during our college time. And even when we were in New York, we were really working really hard and we were slowly kind of getting that grasp. But I think once we started investing in personal development and going to conferences, the people we started to meet was really a game changer.
Yeah.
So I also know that if things don't work out, I have a massive network now that I can reach out to with so many opportunities.
Yeah. And I mean, when people hear this, we're not talking like, oh, we spent $1,000 and went to something. Over the last 5 years, we probably spent like $500,000 between you and I going to events and developing ourselves personally. So we're not just saying this flippantly, like we've tried a few things. We go to things all the time. As a matter of fact, next week I'm going to an event that I'm going to be at for the next 5 days. So this is now a part of our life. And I think you want to look at it almost like a percentage of what you spend. A percentage of what I invest is invested in personal development. And as you expand, now that percentage, the percentage is the same, but that percentage will expand appropriately as well. And then you'll have more to invest in yourself and continue to grow that way. So I think it's a really important key.
Yeah. And I think one of the things as we're talking about investing in yourself, and I think you start on a journey of in personal development and you think that you've come a long way, you've learned something, and you might feel good that you're good, like you've hit a point.
Yeah.
But the learning really never stops.
Never stops.
Like it never stops. And one thing that was really cool for us, about 3 years ago, we started to meditate, and we had never done that before. And meditation has become such a key in our lives, especially personally and professionally. We've seen it really ground us. And I think when we talk about mindset, meditation helps you really create what you want, from helping reprogram your brain, right? To help rewire your thoughts. We've said it before that 95% of your thoughts are the same thoughts from the day before. And if my thoughts from the day before aren't good, they're not going to be good today unless I reprogram them.
Yeah.
And we do that through meditation. And that's been a practice for over 3 years for us daily. How has this impacted you? And talk to us a little bit about meditation.
So like you said, every single day, it's a process. It's something that evolves over time. Like I remember when I started, we first went to this event where they were having like, hour-long plus meditations, and I'd never done anything longer than 5 minutes. So all of a sudden you're in it, and it's crazy. Your body battles you every step of the way. It does not like sitting still, so things itch, and your back hurts, and like everything hurts that you didn't even know hurts, and you work really hard on keeping that attention. But now that's easy, right? So we've like evolved, but keeping your attention becomes the harder piece, and then you get better at that, and over time it continues to evolve. I think it's one of the best tools that you can possibly have for becoming more aware of those patterns of thinking and the way in which you are, so that you can be aware of the things you need to change. One of the things that's been so valuable for me recently is I've actually, most of what the meditations we do are guided. I've started an exercise where I'll just put on music, and I'll just get a question to ponder and just really go down the rabbit hole of your mind. And when you can really start to have a conversation with yourself and just get really deep and 100% focus on one thing, it's some of the most powerful moments. And I've got some of the most profound insights to me, who I am, to beliefs I have. So I think I would highly recommend meditation practice to people in general. And like I said, it's going to evolve over time. And that exercise that I just mentioned has been very profound for me.
What would you say to someone, because I know this is often when I talk to people who don't meditate, the first thing they say is, oh, I could never do that. I could never sit still. Oh, my thoughts, they run wild. There's no way I could be calm. What would you say to that person?
I think there's a couple of ways you could go. Obviously, they've had an experience in their life where something that they thought was going to be one way ended up being something they loved, right? So that would be another example of something that they could think about. But also, I would ask them, like, how important do you think the way you think and the way you feel, how important do you think that is to your like well-being on a day-to-day basis? And I think you'd have to be pretty ridiculous to sit there and say it doesn't matter. So if they can admit it matters, then if it matters, would it not be beneficial to spend some time on a daily basis looking at that and working on that? Mm-hmm. And how can you argue with that?
Yeah, I think understanding like the why. I'd also say that to that person is that it's normal.
It
like
is
you
normal.
Just mentioned, like you start and like you have all this pain that you never knew you had, and then it's like there's this example in meditation that it's like you're like training yourself like a dog. Like the dog gets up, you go make the dog sit back down. Like no, sit, stay. And it's like your mind. Well, your mind wanders, come back to me, and then it gets up again, and then you have it come back, sit down. And I would just say it's normal, but eventually the dog learns, right? Eventually you learn. Your mind settles down over time. Now, I mean, we've been doing this 3 years, like daily, and that still happens to us. So it's still normal that you would get distracted. So I would just say that it's a practice. It's not about perfection. And that's the beauty of meditation. And every time you have a different experience, and you're working on reprogramming your mind. And just, I love the experience and the practice because it's constantly working on myself and being able to give me time alone and to think about what I'm thinking about. And then there's other times I have a meditation and I'm like, well, that didn't really do anything because my mind wandered the entire meditation and I sat there for 30 minutes and then I'm just like, ah. But I actually got to talk to a scientist that I had went to this meditation conference, and it was 6 days straight, and it was my second one, and I was fidgeting the whole time, like nothing profound happen. I didn't get any downloads. I didn't have any cool experience. My body was fighting me literally the whole time. And I was just like, what is going on? And she told me that because I sat there and I came back, I didn't miss one of the meditations that they did. And she told me that the most change probably happened in my brain that time because I told it to come back, that you're not in charge, that I'm in charge, that I'm going to sit here. And then it was really reassuring to know that it's not always about you think you sit down for meditation to have like a wild experience or a download or a connection with God or whatever it is, but sometimes it's the science too. I mean, this is science back now of how it's actually rewiring your brain, which is fascinating to me.
And I think that it helps a lot because if you go back to that analogy of the dog, I think most people most people don't have well-behaved animals. It's a fact. And the reason they don't is because they tell the dog to sit and it doesn't, and then they tell it again and then it does, and then they keep doing that, and then they feel like they're putting a lot of energy into that command and it's not working, so they give up. But had they just kept going for another few days or something, the dog's now sitting when you tell it to, and you're not putting as much energy, and it's not difficult anymore. It's the exact same thing with your mind. And it's like that with any habit though. So we talked about uncomfortable and doing hard things. Anything new is going to be hard. It's just the way it is, and it's hard because it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable because you're not used to it. That's just the way it's going to be. So, episode 2.
Yeah,
we've done it. What do you think we should call this?
Mindset, doing hard things. And what would you say, like, from our conversation today? Like, what are some key takeaways you would say to everyone watching here? Like, if they were to take something of our discussion today.
So I would say that doing difficult things is going to make you prepared for when the difficult happens. Mm-hmm. I would say that. I would say invest in yourself because it's the biggest ROI that you are going to get. And I would say that if you didn't get the hint, mindset matters.
Mindset is everything.
It is everything.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so we did it. Episode 2 in the books. I guess this is going to be a thing that we're going to keep doing, right?
Yeah, let's see what everyone has to say. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast without a name. But if you have a name, put it in the comments so that we can look and vote on what we should call this podcast.
Yeah, what if we had the podcast that you named? Let's see what happens.
Let's see what the audience has to say.
All right.
Cut.
Peace.